are not. These three are not.
Yes, it is a beautiful day. The sun is shining. The weather is sweet, yeah. Fresh breeze is blowing. This is the second Saturday and Sunday sustainability workshop in the Garden of Eden. And today we are building a mighty animal kingdom. This is going to be our palace for the chickens and the goats. And we're doing it out of all free materials. Not only are they free, but we have harvested and salvaged them and saved them from the waste, from the dump, from the trash system itself. So it's free, and we're using something that would otherwise be transported and put in the waste to sit for a long period of time and do nothing. So what we're doing here is we are making sort of like a puzzle piece, a grid pattern of all the pallets. And what we're going to do is construct all the walls while it's on the ground, and then we'll erect the walls. It'll make it easier. We won't have to provide any stability while we're interlocking them. And we'll also be able to see exactly before we start building how many pallets we need and what sizes we need. Now, the really great thing about building with pallets is that they're really strong. Most pallets are made out of hard woods. They're multiple layers thick, and a lot of times they've got, big thick beams running through them with the thinner slats, so they're real strong. They're free. The bad thing is that they are most of the time not all the exact same size. So we've got a bunch of pallets here that are pretty similar, but they're not all the exact same size. And a lot of times, because they're free, they're sort of warped, potentially have some broken slats to work with, other sort of non-ideal characteristics, but we can work with that. So what we're doing is we're assembling them all, creating a grid pattern, a puzzle piece, making sure we've got the walls all the exact same size, the size we want them to be, and then we'll assemble them, and then we'll erect them, and then just connect the four walls. So it's going to eliminate mistakes, it's going to eliminate difficulty with trying to get things to work as we're going. We're making good progress. I think by the end of this day we'll have all the walls assembled, and we might be able to even erect them and put on the roof. So it's going good. Thanks for tuning in. This is important stuff. Bless. So we're securing all these pallets together now, and what I've found is that these pallets are pretty old, and they're solid hard woods. So these long screws really don't go all the way through both pieces of hard wood. So what I'm doing is I'm drilling a hole first, and then I'm screwing the screws through the hole. So whenever you're pre-drilling holes for a screw, you want to make sure that the bit that you're using is always smaller than the screw itself. Otherwise, you don't have any benefit from the screw itself. And when you're looking at a screw, it's got these screw grooves in it, which actually suck the screw in and suck the other piece of wood to it. And the screw grooves are wider and or thicker, have a bigger girth than the actual solid shaft of the screw itself. So you want to make sure that the bit is smaller than the inner part of the screw. I could probably use a bit that's slightly bigger than this, but this bit's working fine. This is probably like, I don't even know what size it is. Probably 1/16 maybe. But anyways, you just use a smaller bit than the screw itself. Now whenever you're drilling, especially through hardwood, it's best to, sort of let the drill eat through the wood. You don't want to overwork the motor. So, you want to be able to press, but you also don't want to press as hard as you possibly can because you're creating more friction and it works the motor hard. So especially on this, I'm going to be doing, probably 100 holes, and I don't want to blow out the motor. So, I'm pressing full power on the drill, but I'm making sure not to try to force it too much. I'm just sort of letting the drill eat through and, have an easier pace versus, really muscling it in there. Another thing is that when you're drilling a hole that's going to go through 2 different boards, you need to make sure that, like say for example, I'm stepping on this board. If I'm stepping on this board when I drill my hole, and then I get off the board and the hole moves, then it's not going to serve its purpose. So I just want to be real sure that when I'm drilling a hole, the holes line up for when I put the screws in. And another thing that I'm doing is I'm only securing 3 of these pallet sections to 3 of these pallet sections. I'm going to do this wall into 2 pieces, just because I feel like a wall this big and this heavy will be pretty difficult to lift up, and it'll also be a little less structurally sound. So I'm going to secure 3 pallets together. We're going to lift it up, secure 3 other pallets, lift it up, and then secure the 3 to the 3, which will be a 6 wall, and then we'll support it with some extra pallets to keep it from falling down. And as far as the amount of screws that I'm using using about 6 screws for about 6 to 8 foot walls here. So roughly 1 screw per foot. I think that's going to be enough. It's always better to have more than to have less, but I try to go light on the screws if I can. So I've drilled my holes, and now I'm going to do the screwing. And a factor that I've found here is that, so on this pallet, for example, I want to screw in from this angle versus from in this angle, because I've got more space in here. The more space I have to work with, the better leverage I can get, whereas this one has less space in between, and I can't get any good leverage. Also on this pallet over here, I'm actually going to want to screw in this way versus this way for the exact same reason. So I'm going to screw from this side into that way versus this way. And another thing is that you really want to get really good leverage. So if, for example, I was to screw like this, I wouldn't have very much power because I'd be pushing sideways. Whereas if I get right behind the screw like this, I can actually put my full body weight. I can put my full body weight into the screw, and I can actually bend my arm at a 90-degree angle, and I can actually push with my whole body against my arm, which then pushes against the drill, which then pushes against the screw. And the other thing is that you want to make sure you have a real straight angle. If you have any sort of bend in the angle of the screw to the angle of the drill, then you'll have wobble. So I'm getting real straight on, and I'm getting all my weight behind. Well, one side is now done, and now that I'm on this other side and wanting to push the boundaries, push the limits, and see what levels of sustainability I can take this chicken coop to, and also for the purpose of demonstration, highlight different possibilities for getting the same end result through a different means. So on the other side, we just used a power drill with screws, and screwed, so drilled the hole with the power drill and then screwed them in with the power drill. Well, on this whole side over here, I'm doing an experimentation, and we'll see. But I've got this old hand crank drill, which is really awesome, and it actually works pretty well. If you get some pressure right up above it.
Wow, that does work.
Yeah, it works real good. So that's actually pretty nice, and I would say that you know, really considering how much simpler this is, how much cheaper it is, and how much more sustainable it is. Yeah, this here really doesn't save that much time, and it's way more expensive and way less sustainable. So, I mean, if you're doing a bunch of work, it's definitely twice as fast. It definitely takes less energy, less calories, but it also keeps you less strong. So, this is pretty awesome. It feels really good to use this. I like that. And then what I'm doing is I'm using pegs. I'm using bamboo pegs to connect all these together here. So I'll show you how to make some pegs and how to fit all these pallets together to secure this next wall here in just a sec.